In one of Leo Tolstoy's lesser-known fables, a highly educated bishop travels to a remote island. There, he finds three illiterate, pure-hearted monks who do not know how to pray. Pitying them, the bishop spends hours teaching them a long, complex prayer before setting sail to return home. Later that night, the bishop looks back toward the island and sees a glowing light rapidly approaching his boat. It is the three monks, sprinting across the surface of the dark ocean. They forgot the words to the prayer and ran over the water to ask him to teach them again. We label a story like this a fairy tale or a miracle because we view walking on water as a violation of physical law. But the universe never breaks its own rules. 100 years ago, a heart transplant was considered magic. Today, it is basic medicine. To understand how ancient mystics performed the impossible, we have to accept a deeply uncomfortable premise. The normal, everyday physical reality you live in is a complete illusion. Knock on a desk. Your hand stops abruptly. You feel resistance. But why exactly does your hand stop? Why can't solid physical matter simply pass right through other solid physical matter? The answer lies inside the atom. If you look past standard textbook drawings, atoms are quite literally 99.99% empty space. When your hand hits the desk, you are not actually touching it. The negative electrons in your skin are simply repelling the negative electrons in the wood, much like two opposing magnets pushing away from each other in midair. That invisible magnetic repulsion travels up your nervous system to your brain. Your brain then translates that energy collision into the sensation of hard wood. No human has ever actually touched a solid object. We are simply localized fields of vibrating energy, constantly misinterpreting the physical world. We are already living inside a sensory simulation. Ancient Vedic texts called this phenomenon Maya, often mistranslated to mean the world is completely fake. The texts actually state that reality simply exists in a completely different form than what our limited human senses project. Thousands of years later, Albert Einstein proved this exact claim. His equation, E equals mc squared, confirmed that physical matter and energy are exactly the same thing. Matter is simply energy vibrating at a different frequency. Think of water. Ice is rigid, steam is invisible, but both are simply H2O. Applying this to the cosmos, stars, rocks, and humans are all just different frequencies of one unified underlying energy field. The yogi Paramahansa Yogananda offered a brilliant way to visualize this. He compared the physical universe to a movie theater. In a dark theater, audiences panic at on-screen explosions and weep during massive storms. Yet there is no actual fire or water. There is only a single beam of light projecting shadows from a booth behind them. The entire physical universe, with all its solid boundaries and unyielding laws of nature, is merely a three-dimensional light projection generated by a singular consciousness. Modernize that theater metaphor to a virtual reality game. When you wear a VR headset and slip off a digital cliff, your brain triggers a genuine, intense physiological panic. Your palms sweat and your heart races, even though you are safe in your living room. Now, consider the game's programmer. Someone with access to the game's underlying code can instantly turn off gravity, remove a solid wall, or fully heal a character. They are not bound by the physics inside the headset. Yogananda argued that spiritual mastery is the exact equivalent of gaining developer access to the universe's source code. He called this the law of miracles. He actually tested this on himself. At one point in his life, Yogananda suffered an agonizing, life-threatening pain in his chest. He realized that if the solid body is actually a projection of light, then the pain was simply a distortion in that light's pattern, a bug in the code. By shifting his awareness to this energetic level, he used his focused will to mentally reorganize those particles, restoring the original pattern and dissolving the sensation of pain. Mystics do not perform magic tricks. They practice spiritual aerodynamics, manipulating physical reality by directly editing the underlying energy code of the universe. But this brings us to a massive, painful paradox. If the universe is just a VR game made of light, why did the creator write a program filled with cancer, heartbreak, and unimaginable cruelty? Yogananda faced this exact crisis of faith. Watching newsreels of soldiers dying in the trenches of World War I, he wept over the senseless violence. In that moment of despair, he heard an internal divine voice remind him that the dead were only light, returning to light. The physical drama unfolding on Earth was never meant to be a cruel joke or twisted entertainment. It is an educational system. Think of a gym. You don't pick up heavy iron dumbbells so they can crush you. You use them to provide the agonizing resistance required to tear and build muscle. Intense suffering and the unyielding illusion of physical solidity exist for a precise reason. They are the exact, necessary resistance the universe provides to force human consciousness to adapt, strengthen, and evolve. This philosophical purpose maps onto a core mystery of modern physics, the observer effect. In physics, subatomic matter exists merely as an invisible wave of probability until the moment a conscious observer looks at it. That act of observation forces the wave to collapse into a single solid physical particle. This suggests a striking alignment. Where the physicist sees the collapse of a wave function, the ancient sage sees the power of awareness to pierce through Maya. Both point to a universe where the observer and the observed are inextricably linked. If a single look can snap a wave into a particle, then our persistent habitual habits of perception act as a continuous observation that holds our macroscopic world in its specific shape. By consciously shifting that internal focus, changing the story we tell ourselves, we are essentially changing the observation that determines how our reality manifests. You are not a victim of a rigid, unchangeable world. The developer's console required to rewrite reality has been sitting inside your own mind this entire time.